The first chapter of the book is Introduction. This chapter talks about how the introvert and extrovert seen in this world and what the difference between them. So, let's start. As we have experienced so far, world is designed for extrovert. When we were kids, teacher in school thinks that a good kid is the one who plays with friends. We are being demanded to have great social skills. Although this is also an important thing and useful later when we are adults, we need great social skills too for building our career, like public speaking skills and leadership skills and etc. In fact, 1 or 2 to 3 people in the world are introverts, and because of the condition that I've said before, in many cases, introverts have to hide their personality and pretend to become extrovert. Because in this world, extrovert personality have more advantage. Something that is not realized and being forgotten is introverts have big role in this world. The ideas, invention, mainly are came from the introverts. Many incidents prove that introverts can do the job in their own way. An introvert can be a gentle individual if it's concerned about the rights. At the end, it's not about which one is better because extrovert and introvert have their own characteristics. Introvert can have more energy with less stimulation. They like to play puzzle and read books, spend more time with close friends and family. Otherwise, extroverts like more stimulation. They charge their energy by meeting new people and new people, doing activity outside and cranking up stereo. Another difference is extroverts make fast decisions and they more like can do multitasking. Besides, introverts more likely to focus on one task at the moment. Introverts and extroverts are like yin and yang. They complete each other. And also, introvert and extrovert are fluid personality. Everyone has their own percentage about their extrovert side and introvert side. Sometimes the percentage is possible to change about which one is dominant depends on the individual condition. What I think about this book is, for me, this book is one of the best choice when you want to know more about introvert and extrovert personality, and many things around it like temperament, free will, and many more. This book also can open your mind about those personality which actually we often go through but rarely realize and understand.
I will explain about the resume from chapter 1. The content in chapter 1 is about America has gone through a cultural shift from culture to personality culture. The cultural shift characterized by 5 points. First, character culture focus on how they behave, while personality culture focus on how the other people perceive them. Second, self-help who change their focus from inner virtue to other karma. Previous books or guides have focused on character that anyone can improve and describe in words, while the book or guide emphasize quality. Third, the advertising industry are portraying self-presentation, which is a sign of changing social order and values and the emergence of new, bolder customs in personality culture. For the fourth, psychology figure describe new status of introversion and concept of inferiority complex appearance. For the last five, some word great leaders priorities extroversion or individual skills that needed at work. In personality culture, extroversion takes precedence and the pressure to improve the extroverted personality. Until now, fear of public speaking was considered as a pathology or disease if it interfered with job performance as stated in the last version of DSM-4. Self-help foundation organization books to develop an extroverted personality or speaking ability. The They are not morally appropriate and contrary to good values in the previous culture. This proves that without us realizing it, the shift from character culture to personality culture makes us sacrifice something meaningful such as values, norms, and goodness that still exist. My opinion about the book entitled Quiet: The Power of Introvert in the World That Can't Stop Talking. The book discussed the comparison of extrovert and introvert personality in the world, which most people with extroverted personality are seen as superior, even though that's not always the case because most people with introverted personalities have secret advantage or hidden skill.
I agree with the opinion in chapter 2, which states that not all introverts are bad at being leaders. An introvert can be a good leader in his own way. I also agree with the opinion in chapter 3 that with cognitive learning, students will be better understand the lessons given by the teacher. I also agree with the opinion which states that it is easier for worker to complete his work if the surrounding conditions are calm and not noisy, such as when someone is focusing on studying in a place that is not noisy, they will hear the material more clearly and the material will be absorbed more easily by the brain. And then my opinion about all chapters in this book is that this book opens my mind, motivates me and benefits my knowledge. Overall, this book is very good and recommend. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you about a recap of the chapter 4. The title of this chapter is Temperament Destiny, Nature, Nurture, and the Orchid Hypothesis. Author from this chapter felt anxiety when she was asked to speak in front of crowds at seminar. To overcome her anxiety, she took advice from people close to her, thinking of happy things and drinking her favorite drinks before he started to give a speech. There was a scientist and also a psychologist named Jerome Kagan that conducted a longitudinal study of 500 babies and predicted that what they would become, an introvert or extrovert, based on their personality throughout his life. The conclusion about Kagan research is if babies grow in the category highly reactive equals introvert and low reactive equals extrovert. Another point is about amygdala, also known as the emotional brain, underlies many of our basic instincts such as appetite, lust, and fear. Lastly, there is a point about the orchid hypothesis by David Dobbs that tell us about how children are like the dandelions. They will be able to thrive in just about any environment, and the highly reactive type that Kagan studied are more like orchids. They will easily, but under the right condition, they can grow strong and magnificent. Also, high reactive kids who enjoy good parenting, childcare, and a stable home environment tend to have a fewer emotional problems and have more social skills than lower reactive. They are exceedingly empathic, cooperative, and caring. When they work as a group, they are kind, conscientious, and easily disturbed by cruelty, injustice, and irresponsibility, whereas highly reactive babies give more pro-social response than other children when presented with moral dilemmas. About chapter 5, the title of this chapter is Beyond Temperament, the Role of Free Will and the Secret of Public Speaking for Introvert. This chapter tells us about research by Dr. Carl Schwartz about fMRI that tells us about which part of our brain is active when we think or do something. fMRI also make a map about the function of the human brain. Environmental factors are so complex that it will be very difficult to pick up a trace of the temperament. But Schwartz had an inkling that he would find the trail farther along the longitudinal timeline that Kagan had. Traits of highly reactive or lower temperament never goes away in adulthood. Most of who we are is determined by our genes, by our brain, and by our nervous system. But Schwartz's findings in some highly reactive adolescents also show the opposite. We have free will and can use it to shape our personality. Although We can reach the outer limits of our temperament, often more both put ourselves right inside our comfort zone. Next is an experience about the author, Mihaly. She was afraid to talk in front of crowds. Then she went to a workshop at the Public Speaking Social Anxiety Center of New York. In that workshop, she get a lot of stimuli that she fears, but with supervision and an adjustable dose. And after she finished her workshop, she can talk a lot and she can talk in front of crowd.
So the next we are going to go on to chapter 6. It's titled Franklin was a politician, but Eleanor spoke aloud of conscience. In this chapter, it basically talks about Eleanor Roosevelt and Franklin D. Roosevelt, as Eleanor is an introvert, but there's some section that talks about the research to prove how Eleanor behaved as an introvert person. So Eleanor Roosevelt is the wife of a politician who had a high social consciousness, and throughout her life, she became her husband's, Franklin D. Roosevelt's advisor. Although the two had a very opposite characteristic, like Eleanor was an empathetic, serious, and shy girl, Kevin, or Franklin, is a very cheerful and easy to get along with other people kind of person. So after they get married, many things change, and Eleanor actually loved intensive and meaningful conversation, but Franklin loved to parties, gossip, and flirting with people. Since Franklin was appointed as a assistant of secretary at the Navy, so his social life accelerated. Eleanor, who was his wife, always expected to socialize with other officials' wife. Then Eleanor felt that he couldn't do that, so she hired a social secretary named Lucy Mercer. That Lucy Mercer is the girl that Franklin supposed to marry before. Discovering that Franklin was having an affair with Lucy, so Eleanor very devastated and she maintained her marriage, but without rekindling the romance between Eleanor and Franklin. On another time, there is a psychologist named Elaine Aron who conducted the research of sensitivity. She found out that sensitive people is mostly a introvert people because they are more sensitive with the social and sensory stimuli. And it found out that sensitive people is more empathetic and they are often daydreaming, their feelings are easily heard, creative and intuitive, a good observer, and they always think in the complex way, so they get bored with the small talk and they have vivid dream and they can often remember what dream they had last night. And these sensitive and introverted people also tend to speak softly. This all a characteristic by Elaine Aron really goes to the personality of Eleanor Roosevelt. So like in 122, Franklin D. Roosevelt was contracted polio, and Eleanor wasn't good at public speaking, but to replace Franklin's work, she tried to do it to face it. Eleanor Roosevelt then became the first lady to hold press conference and give speeches in national conventions. Also, later in her career, she served as the U.S. delegate to the United Nations. And from that on, Eleanor proved that the thoughts about people remain always shy is not always valid. Eleanor can show how an introvert people became a brave public speaker or a good public speaker. So, Elaine Aron believed that height sensitivity and reactivity will make a person observe carefully before doing something. Things like avoid danger, failure, and wasted time require a nervous system performance. So, this book is actually a good book, especially in the chapter 6 I read. It talks a lot about introvert people and how it is proved scientifically based on the research, and the story and the illustration of this book is really easy to understand. Okay, that's all from chapter 6. Thank you.
Now I will tell you about the 7 important things on chapter 7. The first point is that extroverts are more likely to be highly reward sensitive, whereas introverts pay more attention to what is done. So in the extrovert brain, there are the limbic system that's called old brain that work more in extrovert brain than introvert brain. So in this old brain, there is a amygdala which is connected to the nucleus that provides impulse to instinctive desires. The second point is There is also a neocortex called the new brain, which evolved thousands of years
あの
after
日
the old brain.
私史上最も重大な夢を
This
見
new
た
brain is responsible for thinking, planning, language, and decision making. The new brain is the basis of personality. Extroverts are more active in seeking rewards than introverts. The third point, there is a mental state called buzz, which is a flow of energy and a feeling of enthusiasm. Extroverts get extra buzz from the pursuit and achievement of goals. So, extroverts' brain will produce more buzz if they are get an achievement or goal because they are happy. And the fourth point, buzz is very beneficial for extroverts because it gives extroverts the courage to take risks. Buzz also has some disadvantages because buzz also makes a person ignore the signs of the negative possibility that will occur. So that's why extroverts that maybe have more buzz than introverts uh, can take more risks than introverts do. The fifth point, familiar content of the Gallup School of Management found that the reaction in the dopamine regulator that called ERG4 is closely related to extraversion, which is a predictor of financial risk, while introverts have 28% lower risk of facing extreme financial actions like extraversion. And the sixth point, introvert has the power of persistence that tenacity to solve complex problems. So, because introverts are more likely to think than take the risk before, so they are have the tenacity to solve complex problems. So they're more likely can solve the complex problem than extroverts. And motivation to avoid the pitfalls that stumble others. And the last point on this chapter that I get that this more than the point is more like motivation for all introverts. So the motivation is like you need to stay true to yourself. If you like to do things slowly and carefully, don't let other people make you feel like you have to compete. If you enjoy that, don't force yourself to fix it because the first single path motivation is clear. For me personally, I think this book is a really good book because not only tell the difference between introvert and extrovert, this book will tell you the reason why introverts and extroverts think differently and act differently. So I think if you want to learn more about introvert and extrovert world, these books are really good for you to read. And both of you, introvert or extrovert, can learn about yourself more from this book, so you can know how to act and think differently in the future.
Hello guys, I need your attention for my presentation about English book analysis. Analysis book, I get chapter 8 and chapter 9. First, analysis book chapter 8. Chapter 8 about difference between introvert and extrovert between Asian or America. Next, this chapter there is a kid named Megway, a 70-year-old from Chinese who studies in America. And Megway said, at school, I'm more interested in listening to what the teacher says and being a good student rather than a crowd class or interact with other children in class. And next, then there is a school in America, Cupertino, which contains ASEAN Americans, not only Megway, but there are other friends. It's namely Chris and Tetsinta, a teacher, Next, Hung Wei Qian. He feels the same way even the summer. He recess he recess parties more than often to study during the summer. According to research and separate journal, he looks for Asians do better when they are keep silent, compared to Caucasians who perform will when face their problem solving. This is quotes from ASEAN, so difference of opinions. And first, who knows don't speak, those, those who speak don't know. Yang tahu tidak berbicara, sedangkan yang berbicara tidak tahu. And second quotes, the wind hold, but the mountain remains silent from Japan. Angin menderu, tapi gunung tetap diam. Yang dimaksud adalah gunung lebih tahu daripada daratan yang lain, tapi gunung itu tetap diam. Yang dimaksud adalah gunung tersebut adalah orang ASEAN yang tahu segalanya tapi tetap diam. And next, quotes from America. First, the cracking wheel gets the oil. Roda yang berderit mendapatkan minyak. Yang dimaksud adalah roda adalah orang Amerika, yang berderit yang dimaksud adalah banyak berbicara. Berderit artinya adalah berisik atau banyak berbicara, dan mendapatkan minyak yang dimaksud adalah hasil. And second quotes from America, be skilled in speaking so that you will be strong, because the strength of one is tongue. Jadilah ahli dalam berbicara agar kamu menjadi kuat, karena kekuatan satu adalah lidah. And next discussion, chapter 9, discussion about when you should act extrovertly. Process, the chapter 9 about the debate among psychologists about personality. Personality psychologists recognize that we can socialize at 6 p.m. and be alone at 10 p.m. and exchange are very rare. However, psychologists still determine that personality permanently exists and can be judged dominantly or not. This is as an obsessed example. There was a very introvert person who visited St. James Military College to speak in front of senior military officers. He was an introvert who was assigned to give a speech. He prepared thoroughly, and as a result, he was success in making a speech. This is, for example, chapter 9. Thank you. But this is my opinion for this book. All not only chapter 8 and chapter 9. This book is very useful and serves to open this mind of all those people, include myself. And regarding the content of the book, as a whole, it's very good to be used as an English language psychology study. Thank you for me.
Alright, now we arrive at chapter 10. So basically, this chapter will tell you about how introverts and extroverts communicate to each other. And these two personality also the types to liken to the North and South Pole because they're always different from each other. But these two types are related to each other because in terms of building a relationship of friendship, business, or love, these two personality complement each other. So, in this chapter, there are Greg and Emily, which is the example of an introvert and extrovert couple who love each other, and then they try to understand and appreciate each other's difference. But there are many factors that make it difficult for someone with different personality like them to communicate, such as different in perception of some things, easy prejudice against someone, always blaming others, and always forcing someone to be someone else or to be in accordance with the wishes of the environment. This is what makes it difficult for introvert to socialize and adapt to their environment. In addition, someone with a different personality in terms of psychology has their own advantage, but there are often misunderstandings about personality types, which say that introverts are antisocial and extroverts are prosocial. That's not true, because what psychologists call the need for intimacy is present in its personality, and in fact, extroverts are sociable and like to party, but also have the tendency to be someone who wants to have close friends that are also comfortable having a deep, meaningful conversation than parties. So there are times when an extrovert is more likely to be someone like Emily, who doesn't always seek closeness from their association. Vice versa, in a study conducted on 132 students at Humboldt University in Berlin, psychologists Jens Aspendorf and Suzanne Wilpers found that the effect of different personalities on student relationship with peers and family focus on the so-called Big Five traits, which is introversion and extroversion, suitability, openness to expression, variance, awareness, and emotional stability. So, someone with an introverted personality tends to have a harmonious relationship, free from conflict, fun, supportive, and loving than an extrovert. Introvert and extrovert both have a fun side, so here there is no correlation between extroversion and friendliness because someone who has an introvert personality can also be a friendly person like me. This explains why some extroverts like social stimulation don't have a good relationship with those that close to them. It also explains why some introverts like Emily from before have a friendly relationship which suggests that she is a very pleasant person who pays more attention to their family and close friends but doesn't like small talk. So when someone labels introvert as antisocial, it's a misnomer, making it difficult for introvert and extrovert to understand each other of resolving differences. Just as men and women often have different ways of resolving conflicts, so the introvert and extrovert research show that an introvert tends to avoid conflict, while an extrovert is someone who is confrontational, relaxed with an open, even argumentative style of disagreement. The differences between introvert and extrovert is tremendous. So an introvert like people they meet in the context of friendship, while extroverts prefer people who compete with them. And in addition, the style of communication also greatly affect the success of a communication in building a relationship. An extrovert is better at decoding social cues than an introvert. And extroverts are also easier to get along with because they are used to dealing with social demands that occur simultaneously. In contrast, introverts often feel rejected by social environment that force them to meet many people at once. And now we go to chapter 11, which talking about how to raise an introverted child, like gradually exposing a child to a new situation and people. Be careful. People must be careful to respect the boundaries of introverted children. Wise parents recognize that this fear is natural and wise. It was explained that not only the teacher but the family can also be the factor that the child become introverted, where the school environment can be very unnatural, especially from the point of view of an introverted child who likes to work intensely on project he cares about, and it's very difficult to get along with one or two friends at once. Changing the first introverted child from school and family means that the teacher and parent shouldn't assume that the introverts are a disease that must be cured. Secondly, do not force the children to socialize in high places. This means not setting the child in a highly interactive area that can cause the child to be sometimes be more difficult to adapt. These two things can be said if there are better parents to follow where their children want to go to school. If it's not possible, then the parent can add insight, perhaps from an economic perspective. Why can they enroll their children in that school? And also, for an addition, introverted child often have a deep interest or two that their peers don't necessarily have. Sometimes they are made to feel strange about the power of this passion, whereas research shows that this kind of intensity is a prerequisite for talent development. Praise these children for their interests, encourage them, and help them find like-minded friends, if not in class, then outside. Make it easy for an introverted child to participate in class, but don't ever force it to them, because forcing make young people to perform verbally dangerous. If a school has a selective admission policy, you have to think twice before basing admission decision on children performance in playgroup settings. Many introverted children are silent in groups or stages. That's all from me. That's all from our group as well. Thank you all for listening, watching everything. I know it's a long journey that you come here, maybe like 20 minutes or something. But thank you for staying with us. See you. Goodbye. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.